Brian, I think I'm jealous that you got to spend time in the Galapagos Islands.
Oh man,
Can you tell me about it?
Well, first let me say it's a once in a lifetime experience.
Yeah.
I've had it twice, and I'm going to actually go back and have it 3 times.
Why?
So I'm incredibly fortunate.
Well, some people went with you last time, right?
Some people are going
group?
with me next time. Yeah. So
Okay.
here's what happened. First time, I have 4 kids, and when my kids were young, I got this idea. I don't know where. And I said, before you graduate high school, we'll get you a passport and we'll go somewhere together, just the 2 of us.
Right.
So my 3rd son was really interested in science, and he said, I'd like to go to the Galapagos Islands, which was a dream come true for me.
Wow.
So
they got to pick where to go.
Yeah, that's
okay,
right.
That's a lot of love, Dad.
And he was 17 years old, so
Okay.
he was like a junior in high school, junior, senior in high school. And so we're celebrating his graduation, and he had been a cancer survivor, so also his kind of survival.
Okay.
And his love for science. So we went. Well, then a couple of years ago, editor called me and said, hey, we're thinking about doing this book series where we would take somebody who writes about theology, spirituality, and send them somewhere and let them just do theological reflection in and on that location. So he said, we're thinking about sending you to the Galapagos Islands. I said, okay, I'll go. So
now I'm really jealous.
Oh my gosh.
That's great.
And so I was on a boat with 16 people, and total strangers, a little bit like Gilligan's Island.
Yes.
Remember
Oh yeah.
that? And yeah, it was amazing.
So you wrote a book there.
Yeah.
What are some? I know you really care about the environment, Brian, and so can you talk about what insights you have about what we're doing to the planet?
Yeah. Well, first of all, let me say, the novelist Marilyn Robinson, she's famous for Gilead and some other great books. Somebody asked her, how can we make the world a better place? And she said, by loving it more. Isn't that great?
By loving it more.
And I just think, here we're at Wild Goose, and one of the things this does is it gets people out to love the trees and the river and the birds, and so getting out to love the world. And that's what one of the things that I think is important. And even though it's expensive, and there's environmental impacts of getting a plane ticket, and we got to be honest about all those things.
Yeah, but
there is value in loving the world and in trying to make that love contagious, right? And the Galapagos Islands are a really interesting story because here are these islands 600 miles from the coast of Ecuador, no human contact at all, and then when humans come, destruction. Within years, within decades, destruction, extinctions, just horrible things. Stupidity of human beings. And you know what? Back then it was more excusable.
Right.
But it was horrible. Excusable in that people just weren't savvy about how much damage human beings can do.
Yeah.
Anyway, the great thing about the Galapagos Islands is that they reached kind of their worst point in the 1950s, early 60s, and then people took action, and things are so much better. And it becomes a kind of inspiring place to see when people come together how we can make things better. I met somebody years ago who said to me, over the last 500 years, we have made trillions of dollars exploiting and plundering and destroying the earth. We've got to imagine that it would be more profitable to create than destroy. And so now we have to re-envision a whole new economy, a whole new way of life that's based on restoring the earth.
So what's happening? What works? I remember being close to where you live in Florida and seeing erosion, seeing climate change at work. What works to turn it around, Brian?
This is where there's a deeply spiritual part of this, because we have, I think, 2 forces working against us very strongly right now. One is traditional religion, and I'm sad to say especially traditional Christianity.
Right.
Because traditional Christianity says all that matters is your soul, your body doesn't matter.
That's right.
All that matters is going to heaven when you die. God's going to destroy the earth, so this earth doesn't matter.
Right.
That's really a bad story to live in.
Horrible.
Secondly, we live in an economic system that says the economy is the most important reality. Well, if you stop and realize that the economy only exists within the larger ecology, and so if in both religion and economics we refuse to be captivated within those little bubbles, but we break out of, you remember Truman Show? It's we got to break out of the dome.
That's right.
And enter a bigger world.
That's right.
And say, and this to me in a very spiritual way is we say, look, if we believe that God is creator, and that God has expressed God's self in this creation, then suddenly all of creation is holy, of value. We are connected to it, and
it's connected to us.
It's connected to us.
Right.
And when that happens, it just leads into wonderful places in every way.
I recently preached a sermon on Psalm 66, and I had never really dug into that text, but we're created a little less than Elohim, either
Yes.
angels or God, right?
Yes, yes.
And then this kind of, and therefore to steward the earth.
Yeah.
What if you and I might say, our liberation is really
Yes.
tied up in each other.
Yes.
My liberation is tied up in yours.
Yes.
We're inextricably connected,
Yes.
Dr. King would say.
Yes.
What would happen if we humans felt like our liberation is tied up in the panda bear, tied up in the eucalyptus
gosh.
tree, tied up in the sea turtles?
Can I give you one example?
Tell me.
A lot of people have heard this saying that the rainforest is the lung of planet Earth, which
Ooh.
there's a lot of truth to that, in the sense that every breath we take, we're dependent on the rainforest to be sending out oxygen, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, it turns out that it's not actually the main lung. It's a big lung, but the main lung of planet Earth are these tiny little creatures called plankton.
Yeah.
Out in the ocean.
In the ocean.
And those plankton produce the oxygen that we breathe. In a real sense, my lungs can't get air apart from my connection to plankton
In the ocean.
producing that in the ocean. Here's the deal. A lot of people don't know this. When we pump carbon into the atmosphere, that carbon turns into carbonic acid when it mixes with water.
With the water, okay.
And so it acidifies the ocean, and now those little plankton can't survive in increasing acidification. So suddenly you realize that climate change not only affects us through storms and droughts and rising sea levels, but every breath that we take is being decimated by this economic system. Now here's the deal. Especially you think for people who say they're followers of Jesus, one of the things Jesus said, I almost never hear a sermon on this, which is you either love God and hate money, or hate money and love God.
Yeah, nobody wants to preach that.
Yeah.
Right?
And that's strong language. But I think what he's saying is bearing true more now than ever, because if what we say is, look, fossil fuels are good for the economy. Running the economy without conserving the environment is good for the economy.
Right.
Then we do things that are absolutely suicidal. And not only suicidal, but then they're destructive to those little creatures that have a right to exist in the middle of the ocean.
And it's suicidal, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
We're going to die.
Yeah.
We are all going to die. It's on the way to the 2020 elections.
Yeah, I heard about that, yeah.
Yeah. You and I are going to connect around common good.
Yes.
Do you want to just say a dream you're having about how that work might help us, Brian?
So I just found this out. I haven't even had a chance to tell you yet, but next Tuesday, just in a few days from when we're having this conversation, I'll be in D.C. meeting with a group of existing elected officials, trying to help them understand the importance of reaching out to voters based on faith and values, helping them realize that if Democrats say that Republicans are religious, we're secular, they're forfeiting the election.
We are going to lose, right?
Everybody's going to lose.
That's right.
So if we can help those elected officials, and then our plan is to train candidates, and then we have all kinds of other plans too. But here's the weird thing. You and I know this. It's so amazing how many people don't know this. Because of our faith, that's what makes us progressive.
That's right. Because of our faith, that's what makes us.
It's not in spite of our faith.
No, it's because of it.
In fact, if the only kind of faith I could have is the kind that I grew up with, that was captive to conservative ideology, I couldn't be a Christian.
Yeah, I'm actually working on either we reframe and reclaim Christian, or I'm going to do Lovian, or call myself a Jesus follower, or something like that.
Can I tell you something about that?
Please.
So I was in a board meeting recently with this organization. The founder's getting older, and the organization is planning succession. Actually, this wasn't a board meeting. This was somebody in the organization told me about a board meeting. And one of the board members said something like this: our founder has always been about the mission. Our organization has always been about the founder.
Oh.
When will the organization become what the founder was about?
Right. Oh my goodness.
And
that sounds like the Christian story right now.
Exactly right.
When will this organization become like our founder.
Be about what our founder was
about.
Which was revolutionary love and
Love God, love neighbor, love self, love period.
That's it.
Everything else is commentary.
That's right.
Everything
Exactly
else is
right.
commentary. Can I give you a hug? Thank you, Brian. One of my favorite people.
You are one of my favorite
You're
people.
one of my favorite people.
What
I'm
an
so glad
honor
for
to be
this.
in this together.
So good to do it. So glad. Thank you.